Brainer Show. We are going live. We are on YouTube, Facebook, X, your mom's fax machine, wherever. We're live wherever we can be. I just wanted to let you know we're going to have a fun, interesting conversation tonight. We had Lori, who's on our show previously, emailed me yesterday and asked, she had some stuff on her heart and she's really been wanting to share. So I said, yeah, come on, we're going to go live tonight. So why not? My buddy Daniel might pop in. I tried to get Lori in, the illustrious LA, but she always disappears into the sunset. But more and most importantly, we are graced by his presence tonight. My co-host extraordinaire, D-Rex. What's up, brother?
Hey, how you doing?
Did you like that intro? I was being nice to you, bud.
No, I thought it was great.
Thanks. All right.
Straightforward.
The greatest co-host in ever show history.
Yeah, that'll work too.
Just put your boots on when I say it. I'm kidding. Anyway, so we're just going to dive into it. Tonight's going to be a little bit of a different show. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. If you are into if you've been watching the whole things unravel with Charlie Kirk and his memorial and everything, and I don't care what side of the fence you're on. I really don't. But you're on the human side, I hope. Jump in. I'd love for you to tweet. I'm sorry. Message us, whatever questions. We'll be here chatting away. We're gonna be here for about an hour. I know you have a hard stop in about an hour, right, Lori?
Yes.
Excellent. So, Lori, you emailed me something heavy's been on your heart. Let's talk about it. I'm gonna put on my psychologist hat. No, I'm kidding. I'm not a psychologist. I'm a doctor on the internet. That's about it. But we're just let's just chat, and hopefully we'll get 3 great different perspectives. Hopefully people jump in and chat with us.
Sure.
Derek, did you check and see if we're on YouTube? Would you please? Thank you, kind sir.
Already have. We're good.
You're the best.
Cool.
That's why you're the best. You're the greatest.
Yeah. So I thought I'd reach out to you guys because we had a great conversation last time. And I know the main purpose of our topic last time was about faith in the workplace. That was kind of a topic I had thrown out to you and how I try to integrate faith in my business. I actually own an ad agency. It's called cmoco.com or CMOco, marketing and advertising. The website is cmoco.com.
Right.
If you want to go to the website, check us out. We do a lot of really cool stuff, and you can also just go to leadwithlori.com, which will take you to our website, and you can download some cool stuff there. But I own an ad agency. I have for about 14 years and love it to death. It's been a great business for me and my family. And I've always tried to integrate faith into the workplace. It's not as if I'm coming to work and forcing my faith on anybody. That's not at all what I mean. But it's really just about how I lead my team, how we make decisions as a business, or how I try to make decisions as a business. Just really guiding us and who we partner with, who we may not partner with. Also, just how we really kind of design our culture. And it's always been, obviously, faith has always been a big part of my life. I grew up in a Christian home. So I've always had that as kind of the backbone as to, my foundation growing up. And then obviously in my adult life, I've tried to, live out a faithful life and certainly raise my children in a Christian home. But so it's always been kind of there. And I think this whole thing with Charlie Kirk just really shook me to the core. And I think it did a lot of people. I've heard a lot of people say that this just really hit them very differently. And it just, I think it's so much of it is just because he lived really and unapologetically lived for truth and, or what his truth was. And he is really rooted in the word of God. And he lived that out so eloquently every single day. And he also was just, unafraid, as we all know, to have a conversation with anybody. He treated every single person with dignity, with respect, with kindness. He embraced every conversation. He always treated people just like Jesus would treat people. And I think that's so much of what just really hit me, but also just truly how he lived out his life. And I think it just wasn't news. It really just hit me more personally. This assassination just hit me really, really in a much deeper way. And I think since that time, it's just really kind of opened my eyes, if you will, and really pushed me to kind of reevaluate not only my life, but just how I live my life every single day. but where I'm going in the future, what things I'll be doing in the future, where I am in the business, how I'm treating my children, how I interact with my family, all of those things to me just have kind of taken on a whole new meaning. And I think, without question, I've just leaned in so much deeper to my faith and really, really starting to question some things like, what am I doing every day? And the things that I am doing, are they advancing the kingdom? And that doesn't mean should I be advancing the kingdom through my business? And maybe I can't. That's something to think about. Or maybe I can.
concur with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe I can. And how do I do that? And, I'm getting towards the end of my career anyway. And so I think it was just this whole ordeal has just been it's just been hit me to the core like it has so many other people, but really, really just inspired me to really reevaluate how I'm living my life every day, what I'm doing purposefully to advance the kingdom. And that's one thing that Charlie did so beautifully. He 1000% advanced the kingdom day in and day out. And it just really starts to make you question, what can I do? How do I start to live my life like that? So I just thought it was a good time to maybe have a conversation about that. I'd love to hear your all's feedback on that and kind of, because a lot of people that I've talked to have felt the same way. They just like, it just hit really deep to the core. And, just everybody feels like a real shift. I mean, I definitely truly believe there's a revival happening, which is amazing. I feel like I've witnessed it. Not only in the memorial service, but I just witnessed it and am witnessing it around me,
Right.
with my friends, with my family, with people I work with, just in the community. I just see so much, people being more purposeful and unafraid to talk about their faith. Just like what, Vice President Vance said at the memorial. He didn't really feel comfortable necessarily, even though he was a devout Christian, kind of evangelizing his faith or talking about his faith. It always made, he didn't know if that was the right thing to do, or he felt uncomfortable doing it. And that he had talked more about Christ in the past, week since Charlie's death than he had in 10 years or whatever he said.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly verbatim, but in a long time. And I think I feel the same way. I mean, I've always, been, an open Christian. I talk about my faith for sure, not afraid of it, but I think it's always been one of those things that in some ways you felt might be taboo. And I think we're beyond that at this point. I think we're in a different time, and I don't think we need to be afraid. And I think we need to speak up. And I think we really need to do some deep soul searching as individuals. And really, if we are Christ followers, we have to really look inside our soul and say to ourselves, what are we going to do ourselves? What responsibility can I take individually to advance the kingdom of Christ?
I agree. And I'm going to dissect what you said a little bit. I'm going to start back how it has impacted the majority of people I know. And, and I know Christians and non-Christians, and I really, even through some of my, socials feeds, I haven't seen anything other than people reposting negative stuff, but I haven't seen any of my friends actually post anything, because I believe most of my friends are true humans,
Yeah.
But I think, and I want to equate this maybe to when my mom's generation, when JFK got shot, or when we were kids and the space shuttle blew up. It was like the first time on TV, not only did we see a life get taken away, but in my opinion, watch an apostle, get martyred. People said he was full of hate. I have scoured and watched video after video after video after video. There is never a word of hate. He spoke nothing but kindness. Did he raise his voice? Rarely, but when he did, it was because it was just, when he says, hey, watch your language, as children here, and they're like, F you, whatever. And he's like, okay, enough of you, that we're not going to go this route. But what I did see, people posting things that I never imagined, and maybe I'm wrong, but I happen to follow, she's a conservative, but she's part of the LGBTQ community. And she was at the memorial, and she posted, and she said, I don't care where you stand or what you believe, a man's life was taken that shouldn't have been. But she said the most amazing thing that they didn't show on camera was when they were doing different, I would say, for lack of better words, an altar call. or a prayer with everybody,
Mhm.
she would say the stadium would walk forward and raise their hands. Like people, they'd ask, who's hungry and ready to serve God? And 90% of the stadium would have their hands raised, and I think we witnessed, like you said, we witnessed the start of a revival. I was just stymied, baffled, I guess would be. I watched the entire thing. Well, we were out to lunch, so the beginning of it we watched on our phone while we were sitting there eating. But when we got home, we had it up on the big screen. And first of all, they were there for like 6 hours. And my friend went there and she got there at 7:30 in the morning. And it didn't start till 2 o'clock our time. So that would have been 1, 12, 11 o'clock. So she was there already since 7:30 in the morning. She got lucky. She was one of the ones who made it in the stadium. But she said there was more people turned away. So they opened 2 other stadiums in Arizona for it. So never in my life can I ever say that I've ever seen the gospel preached to millions of people on live TV and nobody was censoring it. Nobody was flipping out. There was no politics. Um, I mean, Trump did his thing. I
He's
swear,
Trump.
I think he's got ADHD because he was all over the place when he was talking. Maybe that's how he keeps it together. I don't know because I know that that was heartbreaking because it was a friend of his.
Mhm.
But the people I saw who have I read today a tweet by a woman who said she's been a devout Muslim all her life. She was raised a Muslim. She doesn't know Christianity. She's
Mhm.
not going to be the first one to mock it or anything because she doesn't know it enough to say anything about it. But she said, I watched the memorial. And she said, what rocked me to the core was how his wife, when Erica spoke, and she said, and then forgave the guy who killed him. She said, if that's what Christianity is about, I want that in my life. There's nothing that I can say against it because if that's what a true Christian is. And I said, well, in my mind, I said, well, obviously that, Erica must have read the Bible because that's exactly what Jesus teaches. And it was just, you know, I've never I don't mourn, I hate to say it that way. I don't mourn celebrities or superstars. They pass away. Everybody's gonna die. We all have we all have an expiration date on us. Some sooner than later, and it's a shame. This guy, it hit me pretty hard too. I got choked up. I mourn, he left a wife and kids. He was 31 years old. My daughter's 30. I couldn't imagine. I couldn't now what my wife and I said, I know they're focusing on Erica. I mean, it's his wife, but what about his mom and dad? I mean,
Mhm.
wow. I couldn't even imagine. And when she forgave him, I actually sat back and said, I know that's what we're supposed to do, but could I do that? But you're right. It has stirred up a boldness. Um, One of the things that, my wife and I, maybe you don't know, but my wife and I are ordained pastors at our church. We're associates. Lorianne's more on the pulpit than me. But it has stirred up a boldness where I'm maybe not so much afraid to do what I got to do, and I have been this week, diving deeper, studying and researching more for myself. Um, so I hate to say there's a silver lining in everything, and unfortunately, we lost a great guy. Whether you liked him or not, I don't care about his political side. I'm talking about he's a human. He had a kind, soft heart, and he had a passion. He was bold and he was relentless for your soul. He wanted to make sure everybody went to heaven or at least heard about it. And it just made me think it's time for all of us who represent to stand up and do it. And and Derek, you have your own shop. I have a struggle sometimes. My mom used to tell me, make sure you tell your customer when you're out there measuring their fence about Jesus. And I'm like, Mom, you can't mix business and Jesus. People throw you off their property. How do you react? If does it come
Sure
up in
you
your
can.
workplace ever?
Yeah, all the time.
Cool.
I think I think
How does it? How
people
does it?
No, I think people look at faith completely. I think people look at faith and differences of opinion completely wrong as a generality, right? We think like we don't agree, so we can't talk about it. But I'm kind of the opposite. Like I would literally say like, "Hi, I'm a Christian. You're gay. I believe that's a sin, but I swear and I sin. God sees us the same. So I love you, respect you the same as a human, and God will judge us, and that's that. And that's what I believe, but my respect and love for you is the same. So I have no problem saying that to anyone, things like that, where it's just like, this is what I believe and this is why. If you believe and you uncover your why, your why is probably different than mine, and that's probably why you believe it. And I respect that, just like I expect you to respect that out of me too. So I don't have the difficulty of doing any of that, to be honest with you. I think the world's pretty sad that that's kind of like always the topic, right? Like the topic, first when he was assassinated was like, um, well, I didn't like him, or he spewed hate, or this or that, and it's like, well, let's get a few things straight first, right? When you are debating with someone, and Charlie Kirk was like a very like mentally like quick person. I think his IQ must have been 150, 160. So it was very high, which is, lower genius range. And I think often when you're debating, negotiating, and the other person knows they're wrong, right? Factually, and you're right. I think as humans, we avoid some of that catastrophe and conflict by saying, I don't have to win the argument by making them feel bad. Because whenever you prove someone wrong, the truth is you walk away and there's two losers, you and that person, right? Because you didn't sway them. They put up a wall, and then they don't like you. So I think the hard part about like what Charlie did is he didn't back down from being able to see that debate through, through and through to the end. And when you're dealing with kind of a younger, maybe less mature audience, I think that's hard for people to cope with, right? Um, Nothing to do with justification. I'm saying I think that's where some of that hatred spewed. Well, yeah, okay, because he proved you wrong and you don't like it. Understood. But we don't like when we're wrong. We got to get to the point where we don't like when we have to prove people wrong either. And so it's like a mixed bag of emotion for me, because like what he did was what he was doing was the purpose was meant to do the exact opposite of then what happened to him, right? And what happened to him was meant to silent and scare, and the result, obviously, the reaction is the exact opposite of that intended outcome. So, as humans, I think we have to be a little bit wiser to see, like, what am I getting out of this, right? What is this doing for me? Like when you have to correct an employee, Lori, you can scream at him, or you can say, that was wrong. This is why. Here's how to do it right. Here's the expectation. Do it right. Good. Go. Or that was right. This is why it was right. Keep doing that. Good. Go. Or you can just scream them out. And usually you want to scream them out, right? Just because it's emotional. It's your business. It's your money. Blah, blah, blah. That's your human feeling, right? And there's nothing wrong with having that feeling. That's humanity. But to get what you want, right, you have to do it constructively, objectively. It has to be something where it's a building, guiding feature, and then puts the accountability back on them to get that done at that point with consequences in mind. So I think we have to realize like how we need to act to get what we want. And I think that we have to understand that you can have forgiveness and consequence too, right?
Correct.
100%.
And so I think that her forgiving him, I don't think that needs to be construed as like, well, he shouldn't have consequences for what he did. So I would forgive him and believe he still deserves the death penalty. Although it's kind of hard to like go there too, because there's some element of God in that, So I don't really sway too far left or right on that opinion specifically, other than forgiveness and consequence. But that's just kind of my hubbub jumble that I just really thought about.
No,
Go ahead, Lori. Go ahead. Then
No, I was just gonna say her forgiveness, it was miraculous in my opinion, just because how quickly she was able to get there. It's not to say that none of us could get there at some point, but how quickly she was able to do it. And I think the reason that she's able to do it so quickly is because she knows her truth. She knows what Jesus expects of us based on what Jesus did for us. And so she was able to get there quicker. Like you said, it doesn't excuse what he did. It doesn't say, she never said anything about him not serving punishment or anything like that. The forgiveness sets her free. It doesn't set him free. It sets her free.
Correct.
1000% it sets her free. And one of the things I just want to go back to that you said about Charlie and having these conversations with people and going into these hostile environments and being able to really encourage dialogue for him. Like he said over and over, when we stop talking is when we dehumanize each other. when we don't have conversations. I have a lot of friends that don't agree with me politically or don't agree with a lot of things I do. And you know, I have friends that whose political views I may not align with either, but I love them. I love them wholeheartedly. And to be honest, it breaks my heart when they won't engage with me in dialogue, or when they want to cut me off for an opinion I have, because I would never do that. Would never do that to them, because no matter what they believe, I still see them as the humans that they are, and every human deserves dignity and respect and kindness and love. And when we can't do that anymore with each other, then we really, really are a truly broken society. And in my opinion, the way that we get back to doing that and to living out our lives and embracing one another and coming together is to live how Christ lived his life. And he set the perfect foundation for us. He set the perfect example. It's all right there in the Bible. The entire Bible is nothing but love. And so it's all there. It's a roadmap, right? So how are we going to use the roadmap?
Well, and I want to touch on what you said, Derek, real quick. Because of forgiveness, there's still consequence. And I go back, the greatest thing of forgiveness I ever, to get to your point, when Christ was on the cross and the thief next to him realized who he was, and all he said is, when you're in paradise, remember me. Now, Jesus could have went, okay, you're off the cross, you're forgiven, go and live and sin no more. He didn't. So the guy still had to die, but he did say, for knowing who I am, you'll be in paradise with me. So, I mean, you're right. There is consequence. And the death penalty, let's take that off the table, because that's a whole nother topic. But I mean, whether you agree with it or disagree with it, I have seen, and you know, before this show, Derek and I did another show with a guy who was very extremely left. We did not agree at all, eye to eye, politically. We did it on purpose for the show. But in life, we don't either see eye to eye. But he's more moderate, and I'm still conservative. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The morning after Charlie got shot, he called to check on me about my mom, and then said, "Hey, what do you think about this Charlie Kirk getting shot?" And we talked about it, and he was just as upset as and he didn't care. His exact verbiage was, he was a human. There was no reason. So, you know, like I said, we did not see eye to eye at all on certain things, but we saw eye to eye that this guy was a human and he didn't deserve to die. So, you know,
But what does seeing eye to eye with someone on a specific topic have to do with our love and respect for them? And that's what I think the question we need to ask ourselves, right? It has nothing to do with it. It's like saying I don't agree with you, but I love you and respect you. They're two separate things, right?
Which we're supposed to, because our goal as followers of Christ is to be loving them where they are and yet showing them where they can be.
Well, it just doesn't mean we have to sacrifice our values and beliefs. I think we just have to
sacrifice. I would never sacrifice that. You know,
that's just how I interpret what you said. We have to.
No. We don't see eye to eye politically. I was saying, but we saw eye to eye that this guy was a human, and even though there are people on the other side who were excited that he got killed. You know, partied about it. That's somebody I would definitely not.
Dude,
see
it could have, to me, it could have been frickin' AOC in the squad, and I would feel the exact same way in my stomach.
I said the exact same thing.
Like, it's just wild. And then having that stuff like on social media where you could see it, it was just like Thursday, the entire day, my gut was in a knot.
To see that, you know, I mean, that would be horrible. His kids growing up one day and doing, you know, let me research something about my dad, and they see that one video of him getting shot. First of all, I hope that gets scrubbed. Look, I've been around stuff and I've seen stuff before. I watched it maybe once or twice and I couldn't watch it anymore. I'm like, nope, too much.
I had to pull over Thursday, because I thought I was gonna pass out because I couldn't get the image out of my mind.
Yeah.
Or Friday morning it was. Yeah, Friday morning.
It was rough. And you know, and the great, as I said, I always try and find a silver lining, and I don't equate Charlie's death to anything good other than what has become of it. I believe it's going to turn things around. They thought they were going to silence, and it was, I saw a pastor who said, if you saw where he got shot, it's where his vocal cords are. So they were trying to silence him. Now, I've seen experts say it ricocheted off his bulletproof vest. you know, a 30-06 is going to go through a vest, first of all. So I don't care what anybody says. It's pretty amazing that they tried to silence him, and now 55,000 Turning Point ministries have popped up on campuses across America. Yeah,
Yep.
you guys did a good job silencing him.
Well, what the devil intends for evil, God turns to good.
Yeah,
turns
100%.
into good, and that is without question evident. To see the memorial service was just completely overflowing, but just the unbelievable display of people and their faith and expressing their faith, and you know that I don't think people would have felt so comfortable doing even a month ago, right? And so it's a good thing. And again, you don't have to believe what, you know, people don't have to believe what we believe, but we have a right to express our beliefs, just like they have a right to express their beliefs. And it shouldn't be our way or your way or this way or that way. It should just be, we're all free to express our beliefs and do so in a way where we know we're respected, we're safe, and we're loved. And we've just gotten away from that as a society, in my opinion. But for me personally, this whole tragedy, I will say tragedy into triumph story, because that's truly what I feel is happening. But it really has just made me personally think about, okay, what's next for me? Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do to, I guess why I feel that way, and kind of really doing some soul searching and kind of questioning what my next steps might be as a Christian is really because look at what one man was able to do in terms of advancing the kingdom. Yes. It is so powerful. Yes. It makes me feel so small and so insignificant, and so like I haven't stepped up to do what God's called me to do. And I think that's where where the soul searching comes in. It's like, I'm not saying that I haven't done good in my life, or, you know, having a business and putting people to work and nurturing them and seeing my employees grow and loving on them and serving them is not a great thing. It's all great stuff. It's all great stuff. But and I'm a sinner. Of course, we're all sinners, right? We don't live infallible lives. No one lived an infallible life, not even Charlie Kirk. Only Jesus lived an infallible life. So, you know, I don't expect that of myself either going forward. You know, I can barely live 10 minutes without sinning, right? So in some form or fashion, but it truly does make you self-reflect on what we can do individually as Christians to live out what he would have wanted us to live out. But also what he wanted us to live out is what Jesus has called us to live out. Correct. And I think we haven't been bold in our faith. And I'm the first one to say it, and in terms of myself. And so it's been there. I'm wanting my faith to consume me, if that makes sense. I want it to consume me. I want it to lead every decision. I want it to lead me for the rest of my life, and, you know, helping me bring the gospel to people who don't know it, because I know what joy and peace it brings to me. It brings just unexplainable joy and peace in the midst of a lot of dark times, like really dark times. In fact, I'm going through a pretty dark time right now with some other stuff. And if I didn't have Jesus, and if I couldn't hand it over to Jesus, I don't know. I don't know. And I want people to know that they have that. When Erica Kirk talked about, you know, young men in our country, and young women too, for sure, for that matter, but young men not feeling as if they have purpose, direction, a cause, they're lost. It's so true. And having Christ in your life, it changes that. It changes the script 100%. And so when people say they don't know Jesus, or they think it's stupid, or it's a myth, or what have you, it makes me sad more than anything, just because I know that the Holy Spirit is in me, and I know what that Holy Spirit brings to me and to my life. And to not have somebody experience that hurts my soul. Like, I want them to experience what I'm able to experience. And so how do I do that? I don't have the answers, but I really don't. But I'm just kind of like, okay, what is it in my soul searching? What is it that I can do? What are those next steps? And I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to pray every day and hope the Lord reveals it to me. But I definitely feel emboldened to take whatever next step that he calls me to take.
I saw a video today, and thank you. And that was great. I didn't mean to just jump onto the next thing, but I know we have
No, you're fine. Okay.
I saw a video today where a pastor was watching because he had been hearing this guy Charlie was racist. He was transphobic. He was and I'll get
He
to
was
that
none
video.
of those things, by the way. None
I
of
have
those things.
someone very close to me who's getting married, and one of their people in the wedding is actually trans. And she heard through the grapevine that now that person saw that she posted a memorial to Charlie, and now she's fears for her life, so she probably can't come to the wedding because we're a bunch of conservative Nazis. But that's whatever.
When do we riot? We don't riot.
I don't know. But I did see someone tweet and said, if you're watching this Nazi propaganda, then you're no friend of mine. I was like, I'm watching it. What are you watching? Because
Thank you for
see Kyle going
filtering
on.
yourself out from
I
unpleasant people.
mean, come on.
Thank you for warning me like that you're just an unpleasant person. Like, no problem.
But I saw this pastor who watched one of Charlie's debates, chats, whatever you want to call it, and he said, watch this. He says, I've watched this, I've studied it, so watch. And a young 19-year-old transgender male, so that would make them a female, and they wanted to become a male, I think. I'm sorry, I'm not up to date on it. But anyway, come up and asked, at what age do you think it's appropriate to allow children to transition? And he goes, watch what he does. He says he uses theology on them. So Charlie goes, well, first of all, let's discuss why you feel that way. What's going on inside?
And in your mind,
Charlie
what's
broke
going
it
on in
down
your mind?
yeah,
too.
Charlie broke it down to Romans 12, basically, the mind. And and he said to the kid, he said, look, I'm not saying, and this is going to be something that many people don't agree or disagree with me. He goes, I'm not saying anything that you should do to your body before you figure out what's going on here. Don't put chemicals in your body that you can't reverse. Check yourself first. And it was beautiful. There was no hate there. He was actually showing love. He was concerned for the guy's heart, and because the kid literally reached out and almost looked like he was in pain. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm torn. Well, let's talk.
And the person said, actually, thank you for sharing. Thank you. That Charlie said, thank you for sharing. And I saw the same video, and nothing but love there. Nothing but love. And just, again, it's not about which side, again, it's just so much deeper in terms of just us and our humanity. It just boils down to humanity and how we are going to go forward and be, treat people as the humans and believe in the dignity of life and the respect and the love that it deserves.
Right. And I mean, I'm so sick of everybody left and right. Nobody, do you not realize it's left wing, right wing is the same bird? It's just, we're all Americans. We're all humans. If you cut me and you have a supreme, extreme purple-haired liberal on the other side, and I'm just, whatever, and you cut them, guess what? We bleed the same color. We're the same thing on the inside. Our DNA is, for human is the same. So I just, I am going to be much more purposeful in my walk to where I show love, because there's a part of me that sometimes my old wants to come out and lash out. I could never sit down and do what Charlie did. I know for a fact I have. I love Jesus, but most days I want to choke or slap somebody. So I have to. I say I'm from the south side of heaven, but I just, I have to be actually, when they look at me, I don't necessarily have to wear a billboard that says Jesus freak. No, I want people to go, wait a second. What do you got? Why are you so nice? I'm not being nice to you. Why are you so nice?
What was that song we grew up with when we were kids? They'll know we are Christians by our love.
Right.
And not Christians by our judgment, by the way.
Wasn't it Saint Francis of Assisi that said, someone said, how do you spread the gospel? And they said, talk less and let everybody see it through you. Something to that effect. I can't remember his exact what he said, but yeah, I mean, it's just every day. And I do say this, it's, you never know when you smile at somebody, they just needed that smile. You know,
Right.
you don't know what people are going through. So what do you got to scowl all the time? Just smile at everybody. They might think you're a wackadoo. I don't care. I am a wackadoo. That's great. You know, we're crazy, right, Derek?
Huh?
We're crazy.
I don't know who you talking about.
Yeah, you know.
I'm majorly crazy. I'm not
That's
just
why the
regular
show's called
crazy.
No Brainer. We got no brains. So I'm glad you wanted to jump on tonight and discuss. There's no T on
Discuss.
it. Discuss
Mhm.
this with us. My English teacher wife's probably watching in the other room, going, "Learn how to talk, boy." Because it's a subject that people may or may not want to talk about. People may be like, I have a very near my best friend in the world. I said, "Hey, are you watching the memorial?" He goes, "I can't. I've had absolutely enough." And I won't say what else he said, but it affected him to the point where he is one of those guys who's like, I do want to go to about burn down buildings and riot, but he's not gonna, obviously. He's a doctor, he has to go to work. But he just said, I've seen enough. I just can't take anymore. And I respect it. One of our dear friends was going to be on tonight, and he texted me back and said, "Hey man, this is too heavy." And I said, "Hey, nobody's putting a gun to your head. I totally respect your opinion. Uh, Not every no-brainer show is fun and slap happy, although it can be."
Well, hopefully what we're talking about actually is it leads to more light in the world.
Uplifting,
And
yes.
that's that to me is kind of what and again was my thought behind kind of talking to you guys about this and talking through this somewhat is just because it was obviously a dark time that really has, I think, without question, sparked a huge revival in the country, which is amazing. But it's what do we do with it from here, and how do we continue to lead that light through years to come? Not just this weekend. It's really making purposeful decisions about how we shift our lives, how we walk purposefully with the Lord to do what He expects of us and actually see it through. And
Well,
again, I don't have all the answers. I'm trying to figure it out, but I know I need to do something.
I'm going to go a little step further, and I'm going to go out on the ledge right here and be like, listen, if you're out there and you're struggling with it, you're confused, you're angry, whatever you might be, you need somebody to talk to, email us, Zach@nobrainershow.com. I'll be glad. I talk to anybody and everybody. I love it. That's what we're here for. Jump on and talk, because there might be people seriously who are hurting very much. I got no problem to share why I don't hurt. As I was explaining to Lori, and we talked a little bit about this week, I lost my mom on Saturday. And my mother was probably one of the greatest apostles next to the 12 that I've known. And it's funny, I grew up with it. I grew up with an evangelist grandfather who started Teen Challenge in Brooklyn with Dave Wilkerson, and used to save the gangbangers and everything. And I never realized the lineage I had. And my mom, people ask me all the time, "Oh my gosh, how are you? Are you doing okay?" And my mom's walking on streets of gold right now, dancing with my dad. So I'm more ecstatic. I wish I could be with her. I'm a little jealous, to be honest with you, but I got a lot of work to do down here. So I want that to be the same way you should feel. Charlie Kirk's loss was horrific. I shed a tear. I'm not going to lie, but the outcome of it has been spectacular, amazing. I don't know what else to say. I'm going to sit back. Derek, you jump in anytime, or Lori, whatever.
Well, I think that the only question that not the only, sorry. I think a big question I have that kind of keeps me thinking at all times really is just, we say God uses things for a certain purpose, or allows things for a certain purpose, and certainly obviously he allowed this and there's a purpose. We can see it. It's obvious. It's still hard to stomach when it's this Charlie Kirk actually, like, he had a huge audience. And it's weird because, like, before I really got into politics, I didn't really know who he was. And then as I got more into it, I was like, oh, it's this guy. And then I'd watch his stuff and I'm like, geez, this dude's bigger than Ben Shapiro. This dude's like Kansas, like just millions and millions of people is just insane. So to see that he was able to touch that many people, have that many chapters, have that many employees, go to that many campuses, talk to that many people,
Yeah.
kids at one time, my gut will always kind of struggle with like why are we woken up by this? Why weren't we woken up before? Or were we woken up before? And now what's the purpose of this, elevated above what he already had? But I also think that, like, good news wise, I would take someone on the other side of the opinion aisle as I am, Bill Maher, and just kind of watching him over the last year, last few months, dialoguing with a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds, Greg Gutfield, Tony Hinchcliffe, Charlie Kirk, and Kid Rock, and just, different people who are like complete opposite ends of the spectrum as him, is
Right.
that I think what he's going through right now, and I don't think he's ever going to be like a Trumper, which is whatever, but I think what he's going through right now is that he has experienced that the dialogue he's having with people is removing the hate and replacing it with a respect for that person as a human being. And he said that specifically about going to the White House for Trump and having dinner with him and Kid Rock. He specifically, like, now when people like go at Trump, Maher will defend his humanity. He doesn't always have to defend his viewpoints, and that's
Right.
cool, but he will defend his humanity, which is like, if you've been watching this and paying attention and trying to glean something from this, I think something like that is like a God thing where someone can now compartmentalize viewpoints and opinions differently than humanity and respect and love. They're different things where you can attack a policy, but you don't assassinate someone's character. Right? It's the number one rule in marriage to not assassinate your spouse's character, not
Correct.
personally attack them, or also come up with preconceived notions without having that discussion first. So that's really what I find pretty unique. Um, I still think it's tough, like, for Charlie to go into those circumstances where, let's say it's a 19-year-old kid on the other side of the microphone, and that person has been, I don't want to say the word indoctrinated, but heavily influenced by things
Good
around
word.
them
Influence is a
without,
good word.
with some of the absence of critical thinking, which I
There's,
believe is
yeah.
going away in our society because of these tools we have, AI, and
Yes.
we use it to affirm instead of, we should be searching on Google, like, the opposing, like, we should be trying to prove ourselves wrong, because when we try to prove ourselves right with searching in forums, it's just pure affirmation. So he's coming in talking to someone who has affirmation on whatever their beliefs are, and it can be a hornet's nest. It can be a hornet's nest. He can come into conservative groups, but he can also come into groups that are completely opposite, who haven't had the experience of a conversation like this with critical thought and know how to handle that. And that's what I commend him for, because, like, for me, when I said, Zach, I have no problem sharing at work, my opinion or my politics or my faith, and totally keeping someone's humanity in the same spot, who I know is completely different than me, like a gay person with purple hair, I love it. I feel great. But I also know that what he was putting himself into was a much more difficult situation, where people who maybe haven't compartmentalized those differences yet.
But what's
And
also interesting, though, he also gave a voice to the voiceless in those college campuses, because there were a lot of people who shared his ideology, shared his viewpoint, maybe not 100% on everything, but certainly maybe came from a more traditional background or upbringing or what have you, and they felt silenced. They felt they couldn't, like, all these students that said, I just wrote what I knew my teacher wanted to hear and not what I actually believed. I mean, that is not critical
that's
thinking. I
the
will say,
opposite reason for going to school.
100%. I was going to say, one of the things that I will say that I've done recently, which is, I know this sounds kind of nuts, but because it's been a long time since I've gone to college, right? But I have been really inspired by how well read Charlie was, and also just that he read the classics. And so I'm like, okay, I have to really go research the classics, and Aristotle and Socrates and Plato and Shakespeare and Jane, and just like some of the classic novels, Jane Austen and some of that. So I've ordered a bunch of books, and I can't wait to kind of dive into them, because it's been so long. But I don't ever remember, to be honest and to be fair, of that ever, even back in the day, I'm not going to name the years that I was in college, but a long time ago, right? Like that ever being part of the curriculum. Like, I know we touched on Shakespeare, touched on Socrates, touched on Plato, touched on some of those things, but never really dove into those things, right? And so, I was so inspired. Obviously, his mind was just, he was a voracious reader, but also
Yeah,
he could just
he
like a
consumed
photographic
it.
memory.
Yeah,
And
he
it just was.
consumed
I
them.
mean, oh gosh, it's just insane. But
Yeah.
anyway, so I have put I've ordered a couple things, and I have more things in my Amazon cart. So I'm psyched to kind of dive into all of that stuff. But it really is just like, man, we should always be lifelong learners. We should always try to see different points of view. We should be open to conversation. That's how you become intelligent. That's how you grow as a human. Is to be open-minded and to have conversations with people. Doesn't mean you have to agree, but just be open-minded to a perspective. We all come from very different places, very different upbringings, very different parts of the country. I used to, when I worked for Fox.
Yet we don't. Yet we come from the
don't.
same place.
Yeah.
We come from the womb.
from the womb. True.
We do, yet we don't.
Yeah. When I worked for, when I was working for the Fox owned and operated TV stations group, this is a long time ago, I had to travel a lot around the country, and each city or each state that you went into culturally was so extremely different. And, it just kind of reminded me, in fact, I wrote this as one of my theses or my papers that I did to get into business school, but it was just really how, we have all such different backgrounds, such different perspectives, such different influences that shape our decisions and shape our ideology as humans. And it's sad if we shut our minds to hearing what other people's perspectives and backgrounds are, because we don't know what somebody's walked through. We don't know what somebody's experienced. We don't know what shapes their belief system. And we only know that by having a conversation and respecting their opinion.
Right. And, and it's funny you say that, because you got to make sure you look at both sides so your opinion isn't skewed. So my mom, who we all know she read the Bible since she was like able to read. She's read it so many times. But yet she got something new out of every time. But she also has read the Quran. She studied Buddha. She studied, she used to jokingly say, well, I need to know what the enemy's doing, so I need to read their book. But she also was able to have an educated discussion with people, open dialogue, where she wasn't just one-sided thumping them over the head with the Bible. That's not the way it's going to work. The only people who got kind of slapped around by Jesus was the quote unquote religious, hierarchy, the Sadducees and Pharisees. And he was just like, you guys are the ones who are supposed to know this. And he just make fools out of them. And I just think having that open dialogue, being educated, looking at the whole picture, don't be narrow-minded, be wide-minded to see everything, but also remain steadfast in your foundation. And look,
that's what we do in business.
If you believe,
we observe our competitors,
right?
But we follow our path and our plan, and we let that guide us. We don't let our competitors guide us. We don't, like you were saying about your mom with the other, knowing the Quran and knowing the Torah, and I don't know. I don't know those things.
Her favorite Bible was the Hebrew and Greek that was translated to English.
But the point is, when someone asks you Jewish, Islam, what's the difference? Like, are you able to really trace back and say, yeah, two different sons of Abraham, really, and they went separate ways, and and everything just developed pretty similar in a different storyline, right? You know where that source is, so you can maybe use that to go back and understand the humanity of that person, their constructs, their nurturing, their background, all those things that allow you to let them keep their humanity, because you empathetically understand why they think. Like, if you don't like someone and you can't say, if you can't try to understand why they believe what they do, then I don't think it's fair for you not to like them. Because if you were in their situation with their upbringing, with their influences, you are a very proud person to say, oh, I wouldn't, I grew up in an Islamic family, but I would be following Jesus right now. You might not be, dude. You, who are you to say, like, you can say what your beliefs are, what you believe they're wrong on, but you can't say that, like, you're a better person than that person. That person was raised and influenced a certain way, and you might have been in the exact same boat. So if you can't understand that, and if you can't understand things about God, you think you're God. And if we're God, we are screwed, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Forget if we think the earth is the end all, humans are the end all wisdom, knowledge in the celestial universe, we are screwed. So I think we have to understand that like those are important things to understand when it comes to empathy before you go into saying, okay, but I'm gonna go, I'm ready to make this sale, but I understand the full picture now.
Right.
My competitor, my person I'm debating with, my friend who grew up differently than me, I understand them so much that I can come at them with my beliefs and love without judging theirs, but helping them understand why I am. And if God's pulling strong enough, he'll bring them there.
And I think that goes back to too the difference between religion and relationship, right? Religion's done a lot of bad in the world. We all know that. But at the core of who Jesus was, and it was about relationships. He never. I don't recall. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. And I've read the Bible few times, and I read it every morning. But I may have this wrong. But I don't really remember him speaking about denominations or anything with it. Yeah, none of that. It wasn't about religion. It was about relationships. And that's where we've lost our way. We're divided by religion, and it shouldn't be about religion. It should be about relationships. And that's what I've had somebody recently question me. In fact, I was trying to was talking about potentially going on a podcast, and I mentioned something in the podcast pitch about my faith, and got shut down really fast about that. It's caused all this damage in the world, and it has no place. And if Jesus existed, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, well, I respect your opinion, but I am speaking of my faith does reflect Jesus Christ. That is what I'm speaking of when I say my faith.
Did someone say to you Jesus did not exist? Because that's crazy.
Well, they didn't say she didn't say that he didn't
He
exist.
factually and historically did
Yeah,
exist.
no. She said he was maybe a prophet, and that his wife Mary Magdalene was. I mean, it was some crazy stuff. But
Sure,
but what her opinion, whatever. And so I couldn't say disagree with her that religion has caused a lot of pain and suffering and wars and corruption and all kinds of things, for sure. I said, but I don't look at religion as my faith is not about religion. It's about relationship.
Well,
And
the thing is, I like to point this out. As you just said, there's a
religion's
huge
just the
difference
human
between
structure of your faith.
yeah, right.
there's a huge
Exactly.
difference between religion and relationship, and the 33 years that Christ walked the earth, did he ever start a war? No. I mean, everybody else has fought and killed in his name, but I don't.
He was kind of like Charlie Kirk.
He was actually. I mean,
Charlie
it was
Kirk was kind of like him.
Yeah, so interesting that you say that because
thanks, Derek.
Well, he sort of did start a lot of.
He started a lot of.
We'll say he started shit, right?
Why was Jesus crucified? Because he spoke his truth.
Because he was a
right.
Truth. He spoke
right.
Truth. Yeah.
Why was Charlie Kirk assassinated?
They could not debate him.
Right.
He was a threat.
Why was Charlie Kirk assassinated? For the very same reason.
I mean, it all started back when he was 13 years old and he wandered into the temple and started teaching, and he was teaching better than the teachers. They were baffled. They were actually, I think it says in the word, they were
threatened.
Like baffled.
Threatened.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, and here's the great thing. I did not know. I've learned more about Charlie Kirk in the last couple of weeks because I've been following for a long time. I appreciate what he did. I listened to him, but I didn't really know much about him. For a guy who did not go to college, he's probably the most educated guy I've ever listened to.
Yeah, crazy.
And to hear everybody talking about how he started his business at 18 years old and was like relentless to do what he had to do, and like who has the cell phone of the president and can call him and be like, "Hey, president, I'm going to talk to this college campus. Can you get out here?" And Trump was like, "Charlie, it's California. I can't get there in 4 hours. I'm not coming." But I mean, who has that? I mean, who has that juice?
Yeah, I was really blown away with Turning Point, that I was completely unaware. I mean, I knew it existed. I knew it was an organization. Sure. I knew it had a lot of power behind it, but I think I was completely unaware of the magnitude of the business that he built.
I was going to go to Turning Point in Orlando last October on my birthday. I think it was the 10th or 11th, but that's the day we had Hurricane Milton. And so I was messaging them and they had to cancel the event. That was going to be at the Marriott World Center, Zach. So if it wasn't for the hurricane, I would have been at that. I mean, and that's when I started learning. It wasn't that long ago either, like how big of an organization it was. I'm like,
Right.
holy crap, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And they
It's
have,
pretty
and so
impressive.
there's Turning Point USA, then there's Turning Point USA Faith,
Action.
Turning Point Action. I mean, there's so many offshoots of it. And supposedly, if I heard Erica correctly, they're going to be planting and opening thousands of churches,
Oh, yeah.
you know, and it just, but again, the nonsense and hate that's going on the internet is just, you know, can someone just unplug it for a little while? I think we need to reboot the whole freaking world and start over from scratch, because
Yeah.
this, you know, look, you know,
I
there was
think it's
people
just a
who did
clear
not like,
indicator of the spiritual warfare going on right
Yeah.
now.
Agreed.
There was
You
people-
literally have devil versus.
you
You
know,
do.
but obviously there was people who hated Jesus because they crucified him. But up until the moment they took him off the cross, even the soldier who speared him,
He went, oh
and
shit,
he realized that he was like, oh no,
we did the wrong thing.
yeah, he realized it.
And you
they
know what?
say
If the
that he
shooter had his
actually-
dead body in his arms, he would have realized the same thing too. I think. I believe it.
but they say that he actually went out and became an apostle, and he was like another, like almost like a Paul, like he was, you know, like the Romans wanted to kill him because he left his centurion position and went on. Anyway, I don't know the story. I haven't dove into that story, but I found that very interesting. Like even at the last minute, people are going to go, this Charlie Kirk wasn't that bad of a guy. Let me listen to him a little bit. I've seen people do that actually online, watch videos and go, there's not an ounce of hate I've ever heard come out of his mouth. He just loved everybody, and it was kind of cool. You know, it breaks my heart, but
Mine
it
too.
also joys my heart because churches are filling, people are asking questions, lives are getting changed.
Bibles are being bought.
Yeah, people are. Look, you could be brought up in a Christian home and walked away. I did. I'm the first one to admit it. I walked away for a long time. I helped pave the highway to hell. I was an engineer, and I mean, me and the devil danced together. We were buddies, and that's why he hates me so much, because I left him. But there's people who are like that who are now going, you know, maybe I should check this back out. Maybe I was wrong. I'll be the first to admit it. I did not know the difference between relationship and religion until later on in life. And once I learned that, then I went, aha, this makes sense.
Yeah.
But
For sure.
so we got to wrap up. We're getting close.
We got to
that.
wrap, but thank you so much. And again, I just
Yeah.
hope, you know, it was just heavy on my heart, but also since we had talked about faith in the workplace and everything, and I'm still trying to figure that out, like what that looks like, what that next step is like. I'm hoping I figure it out. I
I'm
hope
not a
it's something
business
bold.
owner, but be
Say what?
bold. I'm not a business owner, but I say be bold. Do
Me
it.
too. Me too.
What's
Me
the
too. I'm
worst
going to do
that
what I
could
have to do.
happen? What's the worst that could happen? God blesses you so abundantly, you don't even know what's going on.
Exactly. But
and-
thank
and
you
I'm
so
gonna-
much for having me.
Of course, thank you anytime, and we appreciate you, and thank you for reaching out. And I'm going to
Of
reach out
course.
to everybody again. If you want to talk about anything, that's what we're here for. You can reach me, catch me via email anytime. Find me on my socials, DM me, whatever you want to do. Check us out. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X/Twitter, whatever it's called now. We're everywhere. You can find us. We're there. If you don't like watching, then we're on all the other platforms that do.
And if you
audio.
need an ad agency, go to cmoco.com and
Yes,
check us
please.
out. We're really awesome and we do great
don't
work. So
have to
go
live
check
in
us out at
Knoxville
cmoco.com.
You don't have
Yep.
to go to Knoxville to use you, correct?
You don't? No, you know, digital works great, but we'd love to help you in any
And
way.
then-
I have to do my little
then-
plug.
And then if there's any needs for your window tinting, go see Turbo Tint.
Exactly.
Rex has all your tint needs. Don't you, buddy?
Yeah, buddy.
You can get your car ceramically waxed there. I had mine. It looked like wet paint. It was beautiful. Anyway, guys,
Good to
thank
see you
for being
guys.
on the show. Great seeing you guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be doing a show on Thursday. We got some awesome guests for Thursday night, and we'll be back live next Tuesday. Thank you, and we will. Until next time, always love you and peace.